These two standouts for either team are certainly going to be duking it out for Player of the Year spots, Marty and Jake. And starting with the Akron side of things, Jordan Dawson leading the way for the Zips. Dawson averaging a double-double in the stat lines. However, head coach Melissa Jackson stressed in the pregame conversations that she worked on her mental game during the offseason, and that has been the difference of what sets her apart from the rest of the Mid-American Conference. As for the Ohio side of things, CC Hooks, who is just a close of averaging a double-double as well, but 22.5 points per game, had 28 points in the last matchup against Akron, where they came with a come-from-behind win of a 69-66 victory in Akron.
Now with a 5-1 record for the Cadets, it certainly shows why they're playoff contenders.
Now, Claire, why don't you break down some of the stat lines we saw in this game tonight?
The first half was absolutely explosive when it came to the Cadets, in the air, on the line, in the legs, on the ground. Let's get a feel for how these stats went. Within the first 3 plays that the Cadets had, they had 2 scores in the first 4 minutes of the game, and it totaled for 26 yards total, 3-4-2, kind of a scoregami situation they got going on.
Now, why don't you talk about Ian Ellis? He had some crazy plays early on in the game.
Ian Ellis had no incomplete passes for the first half, and he took his time releasing the ball, finding his receivers. Speaking of receivers, his favorites were Braxton Brown and Mason Long. Brown, with a 24-yard pass on a 3rd down, resulted in a conversion that set up the Cadets for another score. Meanwhile, Long had 2 touchdowns with a total of 40-plus yards.
And now, why don't you talk about Logan's performance tonight? Only 14 points, but a lot of improvement for the final week of the season.
The 14 points came in the second half. However, they had 0 3rd down conversions and only 1 singular first down for the Chiefs in the first half. They couldn't keep their hands on the ball. And even though things went wrong, there was still positivity on the line. I heard from the sidelines, y'all see a 0, I see an opportunity to score from the defensive line for the Chieftains. Logan goes back to work in preparation for next week against Zanesville. The conversations between Drew Sessick and Colin Oberdick were minimal going into the 3rd quarter. However, their trust was maximized as the passes became completed. I spoke with Oberdick after the game.
Both teams' huddles indeed were chatting back and forth. However, one was positive and one was negative for the Bobcats and Bolden's company. Bolden was more than pleased. He doesn't have much written on his board when it came to words, trying to get his team to motivate them. As Jake had mentioned earlier, there's nothing much to be upset about when it comes to the statistics column. However, for the Toledo squad side of things, Coach Collup made it a point to her girls to make an effort to pick the right people, and that is not going against Hooks. It's picking other players such as Yaya Felder or Erica Johnson from outside of the arc as they are draining threes, and I quote, "It's been killer for Toledo." The Bobcats continue their homestand as it is match 2 of 3 for them this week. In addition to that, they are on a 4-game win streak, so everything is in the favor for the green and white against the Akron Zips. Hello, welcome into the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Claire Geary, and alongside me is my partner, Chloe Workman. And Chloe, what is it going to take for these 2 teams to continue their hot streak on the floor? Starting off the linebackers for first team All Gridiron Glory 22 is Colt Seacrest of the Bel Air Big Reds. Over the course of the season, Seacrest recorded 77 tackles, 5 interceptions, and 2 pick sixes. And that's just on defense. He's the threat on offense too, with a total of 10 touchdowns, 5 of which being rushing, the others in the air. Not to mention, the man threw one for himself. He has been nominated for awards all season as well, such as being a finalist for the Ohio Valley Conference Ironman Award.